Parents around the world share one belief. A belief that when they send their children to school, they are sending them to the safest place imaginable. A place built not only for learning, but for growth, for protection, and for nurturing young minds safely. Schools are more than buildings. They are routines repeated day after day, forming a trust that seems unshakable. For growth, to learn, to explore, to become more than yesterday. For protection, a place where parents truly believe nothing bad could ever reach their children. This trust is invisible, yet strong, created over years of normal mornings and predictable routines. Trust is built slowly over years, day by day, morning by morning, without anyone considering the fragility of safety. Parents don't analyze school security each morning. They rely on years of assumption and experience. They don't imagine worst-case scenarios. That thought's too far removed from everyday life, because school is where danger is not supposed to exist, and every parent believes it deeply. But on one winter morning in December, that belief was destroyed completely. Not slowly, not gradually. The change came suddenly, shattering the calm of the morning. Not quietly. Silence turned into panic in an instant, leaving everyone unprepared. What happened that morning changed an entire nation's view of safety forever. December 16th began like any other school day. Cold, routine, familiar. Children woke early, some reluctant, some excited, all unaware of the horror awaiting them. Some complained about the weather, others worried about homework or forgotten notebooks. Uniforms were put on carefully, shoes tied properly, backpacks adjusted to fit tightly against tiny shoulders. Backpacks were heavy not just with books, but with expectations, academic, personal, and parental. Parents packed lunches, checked the time, whispered reminders, hugged their children goodbye. Some families rushed, some lingered for one last glance, a last word of caution. At the school gate, goodbyes were brief, smiles forced, eyes hopeful but unaware. No one lingered longer than necessary. Routines dictated every motion. No one felt fear. There was no reason to. The building was trusted, the teachers reliable. For every parent, this was just another ordinary morning, ordinary in every way, until it wasn't. Because ordinary mornings can become unforgettable in mere minutes, changing lives forever. The Army Public School in Peshawar was known for discipline, structure, and order. It served children from military families who trusted that structure, that routine, that school would keep them safe. Security was assumed, not questioned. Safety was taken for granted because of the school's reputation. Inside, classes had begun. Attendance was being taken, lessons proceeding exactly as they should. No one inside imagined that this calm, this normalcy, was about to collapse in a way no one could foresee. The shift began not with chaos, but with confusion. Subtle, almost unnoticeable at first. Teachers sensed something was wrong before understanding what it truly was. Movement in the hallways felt unnatural, a tension that couldn't be ignored. Voices dropped, whispers replaced chatter as uncertainty grew. Doors were closed quickly, not yet knowing why, but feeling instinctively that caution was needed. Students were told to stay quiet, remain where they were, to follow directions without question. In moments like this, no training manual exists, only human instinct guides decisions. Many teachers acted instantly, placing themselves between danger and the children they were responsible for. What followed would later be remembered as one of the darkest hours in the history of education. Later investigations confirmed the horrifying reality of what had occurred. Armed attackers entered the school, deliberately targeting students and teachers. They moved through the building methodically, turning classrooms into places of terror. There were no warnings, no alarms, no chance to prepare for what was coming. By the time it ended, more than 130 people had lost their lives, most of them children. It became one of the deadliest school tragedies ever recorded anywhere in the world. The attackers were eventually stopped, but the damage was irreversible. The pain, permanent. Inside classrooms, time felt distorted, seconds stretched into endless minutes. Children sat frozen, barely breathing, some clinging to each other for comfort. Some hid under desks, hoping to remain unseen, to survive the unimaginable. Teachers tried to remain calm, their own fear masked by courage as they guided their students. Some led children to hiding spots. Some stayed behind to face the threat themselves. Many teachers never returned home that day, their sacrifice etched permanently into history. Their actions were instinctive courage, unscripted, yet heroic beyond measure. Outside the gates, parents gathered, unaware of the full tragedy that had begun. Phone calls were made repeatedly, but the line remained silent. No answers coming. Messages went unread, hope slowly turning into panic with every unanswered call. Hospitals began filling with the injured, fragments of information spreading chaos. Across the country, daily life paused, the normal rhythm of society shattered. The stories spread beyond borders, the world watching in disbelief, grappling with the enormity of what had occurred. Schools across Pakistan closed immediately, classes cancelled, children sent home early. The nation paused, trying to understand the scale of the tragedy. Parents and families waited anxiously for news, hearts heavy with fear. The world reacted with disbelief, the story crossing borders and oceans. Even in distant countries, parents held their children closer that night. Hospitals struggled to cope as casualties were brought in, every number telling a story of loss. Information trickled in slowly, fragmented and horrifying, as reality began to sink in. Every news bulletin, every headline carried the weight of lives lost and futures stolen. It became clear this was no ordinary school incident. It was a catastrophe. The attack had left an entire city, an entire country, in shock and mourning. Inside classrooms, the moments stretched, time feeling like it had stopped completely. Some children hid silently, their minds struggling to understand the horror around them. Others clung to friends, holding on for courage in the face of terror. Teachers remained the anchor, guiding, shielding, and protecting with every instinct they had. Many of those teachers paid the ultimate price, never returning home, their bravery immortalized. Parents outside struggled with uncertainty, unable to reach their children by phone. Hope turned into dread as each passing minute brought no answers. The scale of the attack became known slowly, each report more devastating than the last. Across Pakistan, daily routines halted, schools closed, and citizens grieved collectively. Messages of support poured in from around the world, a global acknowledgement of shared grief. Media coverage highlighted the tragedy, but numbers alone could never capture the pain. Behind each statistic was a child with dreams, a teacher with a family, a life interrupted forever. Communities rallied, offering support to families and survivors, but nothing could undo the loss. Security measures were examined, policies rewritten, and assumptions challenged nationwide. The country asked difficult questions. How safe are schools really? What does true protection require, and who bears responsibility when it fails? Families tried to make sense of the incomprehensible, clinging to memories of loved ones. Children who survived carried trauma. Teachers bore courage and grief intertwined. The nation reflected on the fragility of normal life and how quickly it can be shattered. Through mourning, the resolve grew. Such a tragedy must never happen again. The children of the Army Public School are remembered not as victims but as symbols of innocence. Their memory lives on in classrooms, memorials, and national remembrance. They remind us that safety must never be assumed and protection must never be optional. This is not just a story about violence, it is a story about responsibility. Because when schools fail, the cost is paid by the innocent, and the day a school failed, its children must never be allowed to happen again. Parents around the world reflect on that morning, how routine became unimaginable horror, how a single day can change an entire nation, its people, and its future forever. Teachers' courage remains a legacy for generations to come. Families' grief became a collective conscience, urging change and awareness. The nation remembered The world watched as silence spoke louder than words. Because some stories cannot be forgotten. They must be told again and again for awareness. So, the world understands what happened, why it happened, and why silence can never be an option again. For remembrance, to keep the memory of those children alive, not as numbers, but as lives that mattered deeply. For change, real change in systems, security, and responsibility. So no school ever becomes a place of fear again. For every child who deserves safety, protection, and trust. The tragedy forced nations and communities to evaluate school security systems. Policies were rewritten, safety assumptions challenged, and measures improved. But no protocol, no plan could undo the loss of those young lives. Parents, teachers, and students carried the weight of that day in their hearts. Memorials were built, stories were shared, and lessons were learned painfully. Each child lost became a symbol, reminding the world of innocence lost too soon. Communities held vigils, and the nation paused in collective mourning. Worldwide, parents hugged their children closer that night, grateful for life and safety. The event transcended borders, teaching a global lesson about vigilance and care. Survivors' stories began to emerge, tales of courage, quick thinking, and compassion. Teachers' instinctive decisions saved lives, some at the cost of their own. Stories of bravery highlighted the human spirit amidst unimaginable horror. Lessons learned that day shaped future safety measures in schools across the country, and the children who were lost remain a guiding light for all who follow. Teachers' courage remains a legacy, their actions remembered for generations, families' grief transformed into a collective call for change and awareness. The nation remembered, the world reflected, and silence spoke louder than words. Because some stories cannot be forgotten, they must be told again and again to ensure awareness. So this tragedy is understood, remembered clearly, and never reduced to just another headline. To honor remembrance by keeping the children's memories alive, by speaking their names, and by refusing to forget what was lost. To inspire change in how schools are protected, how warnings are taken seriously, and how responsibility is never ignored again. To remind the world that children deserve safety, protection, and trust. The tragedy forced nations and communities to reevaluate school security systems worldwide. Policies were rewritten, safety protocols improved, and vigilance increased. But no measure could undo the loss, nor bring back the young lives that were taken. And the day a school failed, its children must never be allowed to happen again. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe for more stories. Share this video to honor the memory of the children and leave a tribute in the comments below.